For an intensive review of the inner critic, here's a method that we've developed that helps if you have a huge problem dealing with your inner critic. Now, what you need for this exercise is pen, paper, and your memory. To do this, anytime you hear your inner critic criticize you for certain things, write those down. Write everything you've ever heard your inner critic tell you on a list, on a sheet of paper. Now, after you make this list, start looking at those and start finding names of people that may have said those to you in the past. Because what we've seen with working with different people is that most of the criticism we hear from our inner critic actually came from people from our past. Typically, it's a voice of authority, maybe a parent, an uncle, a friend, your peers, something you see on TV. And once you start identifying names that match those criticism, you can then go to the next step. In that next step, that's where you assess that list. If you see someone's name appear too often on that list, there may be someone you need to talk to. After assessing that list, start thinking about why that person may have been saying that to you. Sometimes it's out of love, sometimes out of fear. Maybe you grew up in a family that did not have too much money. And your parents always told you, hey, helping others is something rich people do. Or maybe saving money is something rich people do. Those are things that you can look back and see that they came from a place of caring, but they may have been misguided. So when you make that list and assess it, whatever it is that you see from reviewing that list, take the action of either talking to that person that you listed or figure out the reasoning behind it, and based on that, push forward, either saying they did it out of love, if it's out of jealousy, maybe you need to work with them. But once you have that list, then it becomes easier to deal with your inner critic. Now that we've talked about the inner critic, how it manifests itself, how to deal with it, now let's talk about what a good relationship with our inner critic looks like. Our inner critic, when developed well, keeps us out of trouble. Right now, if I decide to go fly a plane, guess what? My inner critic is going to tell me that I'm going to fail, that I'm going to crash the plane and die. Well, it may be right. Maybe I shouldn't fly a plane if I don't have the necessary skill to fly a plane. Another healthy way the inner critic manifests itself is by cautioning us each time that we move in a direction that's against our values. If we tell ourselves that we are hardworking people and then we're being lazy, not preparing for a test, maybe, then inner critic starts pricking us and telling us to get to work and do what we've set out to do. Another way a healthy inner critic relates to us is by reminding us of the challenge that's ahead of us. If you're trying to change Nigeria and you're not building up on yourself, the inner critic is going to ask you why you deserve this goal you're pursuing. So we went over the manifestations of the inner critic. Now let's see what that looks like when it's healthy. We talked about how dare you. How dare you then becomes a question of, is this goal worth pursuing? Are you willing to give this goal whatever it takes to get it? You are going to fail becomes, am I doing my very best right now to reach my dream? This is a disaster becomes, what can I learn from this? What do I need to do to get back on track? Which one are you becomes, is what I'm doing going to help me become the person I want to be? You are obviously a failure becomes, what is working and what is not working. People will stop loving you becomes, is what I'm doing going to get me where I hope to be in life? Not yet becomes a question of, what are the minimum tools I need to start pursuing the dream I want to pursue? You are to becomes, what do I need to start and how do I get them? So that's it for the inner critic. That's something that we all will deal with at different points in time. And it's not something that's always our opponent. Once we develop a better relationship with it, it turns from being an opponent to an ally that keeps us in line and helps us get to where we need to be in life.